Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 46 of What If Transformers Crash Landed in My Hero Academia S02. Link description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this isn't a scam. Chapter 90, Divergent Encounters. Ding dong ding dong, ding dong ding dong. As the first morning bell rang throughout UA. Hi, Class 1A continued to not say a word at all. It was Saturday. The moment of truth. The day that they'd find out if they had all passed or failed their final exams. Granted, many of them were actually quite confident in their performances, but it was the nervous few whose silence spoke volumes. Denki, Mina, Jiro and Shiro were completely quiet, the four of them racked with nerves as they sat in their seats, hands placed together against their lips in trembling anticipation as they awaited their homeroom teacher to arrive. And that's what off-put Izuku the most, the fact that the four most talkative students in class were being quiet. And because of that, it was starting to weird him out. Guys, can you at least say something? He urged, gazing upon them in concern. Yeah, dude, the fact that you're being quiet is seriously freaky. Kyoka said to Kaminari, despite her better judgment. Well, can y'all blame us? Denki hollered back, allowing himself to finally air out his anxiety. Sure, we did well on the practical, but we still have no clue how we did on the written test. Shiro was in a similar disposition, though for the opposite reason. And the fact that I flunked the practical must mean that my grade's gonna get a huge swath cut out of it. I didn't do much of anything to help either. Hey, come on, don't say that. Keita encouraged. You got me away before I could get a whiff of Midnight's Mist, so there's that. Meanwhile, Mina was near hyperventilating as she expressed her worry as well. Okay, but what if we still did badly on the written part? What if we still don't get to go? She muttered, the thought making her tear up a bit. From across the room, Momo tried to encourage them as best as she could. And now don't jump to conclusions like that. Mina, you did especially well in your studies at my house. You shouldn't let your doubts weigh down your confidence. Surprisingly enough, Bakugo was also doing his best to pump Kirishima up, in his own way. And you'd better not be second-guessing yourself after our study sessions, Kirishima. Otherwise, what the hell was the point of it all? Fair point. Jiro concurred. Y'all really did drill those lessons into my head. Damn straight. So pull yourself together and quit worrying. Besides, I've got a feelin' this'll end the same way for all of us. Jiro raised a brow to the ashen blonde, as did many others. What d'ya mean by? Just then, the door to the classroom opened, and Aizawa came in holding a large stack of papers under his arm. Immediately, everyone stopped talking as their homeroom teacher took his place at his desk. Good. Glad that everyone's in their seat for once, and rather quiet, too. Suppose that makes sense, though, since I'm sure you're all dying to know what your grades are. Well, I've got good news and bad news. He saw a visible wave of concern go over a majority of the students at that. Let's start with the good news. He offered them a rare, if small smile of approval. Congratulations, you all passed. At first, there was still more silence, but eventually, the news managed to click with the entire class. Why, you're serious? Ochako uttered. We all passed. No way. Toru exclaimed, whipping her head around toward Denki, Mina, Jiro and Shiro. Guys, did you hear that? You okay? The expressions of the quartet could only be described as emotional elation. They were so overcome that the boys were on the verge of tears, while Mina wasn't afraid to let them flow. No freaking way. She cried out in joy. Hallelujah. Shiro threw his arms up while Denki and Jiro shared a high five. I'm glad that you all seem to understand how momentous this occasion is. Aizawa acknowledged. I haven't seen an entire class of first-year students pass their final exams in a long time. So, does that mean? Izuku said hopefully. Aizawa gave a single nod. Yes. When it comes to the camping trip in the woods, his features broke out into a wide, toothy grin. Everyone is going. All at once, the entire class broke out into celebratory cheers, though Aizawa was quick to bring that down. However, just like that, the ruckus stopped, and all eyes were on him. There were some of you who scored lower than most, and as a result, there will be some extracurricular courses that you'll have to do during camp. Jiro, you ended up scoring lowest on the practical, so you'll be part of this. As will Ishido and Kaminari, as you two scored the lowest on the written exam. The news predictably made the three students sigh, though they weren't entirely disappointed with the outcome. Well. At least we still passed. Denki gave 2 thumbs up. Didn't leave anything blank on that test. Yeah, still, this whole thing was super tense. Mina sighed. I'm just glad that we found some way to win in the practical, otherwise we might have been cooked. True, though in a way, there was never anything to worry about when it comes to that. Aizawa said, leading to many perplexed stares. Let me explain, for the practical battles, the teachers made sure to leave at least one way for you students to win. Otherwise, you never would have stood a chance. We were interested to see how you would each work together and approach the task at hand. Ojiro raised his hand. But didn't you promise the teachers wouldn't be holding back? That was just to get you on edge. Aizawa answered. Besides, the training camp will focus on building your strength. His sights shifted toward the 3 who scored the lowest. Those who underperformed need these lessons the most. We were never going to separate you. His wide smile came back as he concluded his speech. That was just a logical deception we used to get you to do your best on the test. It was the reasoning that they had all heard from Aizawa twice before, but even still, many couldn't believe it. A logical deception. The entire class echoed while Mina, Denki and Jiro celebrated, all while Tenya clenched a fist in ire. They tricked us all. I should have expected this. He sprung out of his seat and thrust his arm into the air. Mr. Aizawa, this is the 3rd time you've lied to us. Aren't you worried we'll lose faith in you? Behind him, Ochako wore an awkward smile as she tilted her head at him. A little blunt there, Tenya. That's a good point, Aizawa recognized. I'll consider it, but I wasn't lying to you about everything. Once more, his sharp gaze directed itself back to the celebrating trio, who shrunk back into their seats. Frankly, the lessons we've prepared for the 3 of you are much tougher than what you'd face at summer school, so I suggest you mentally prepare yourself. But on that note, I have one other surprise left for the lot of you. Knock knock knock. As if on cue, a rapping came at the door, and the entire class turned their heads as it opened up. And, stepping in from the other side, was someone that no one expected to see. My apologies if I'm interrupting, said Orion Pax as he strolled into the classroom with a knowing smile. But I believe I heard someone mention a surprise. Aizawa grinned and moved away from his desk. Of course, sir. If you'd please. I would be happy to. Orion accepted, stepping behind the desk before addressing the students. Good morning, class. I am happy to see you all in such high spirits. Needless to say, the entire class had no idea what was going on. Even those in the know about the Autobots hadn't expected this. Mr. Pax, Suyu spoke up, just as bewildered as the others. What are you doing here? Well, given my involvement in the exams, your teacher wanted me present for this occasion. Orion answered, his eyes shifting from Bakugo, to Shoto, and finally down to Izuku directly in front of him. Congratulations, by the way. You have all made it, and just from my observations alone, you all performed admirably, and yes, I am including you in that, young Jiro. While Jiro appreciated the vote of confidence, it still served to remind him that he could have done better. Thanks, though I dunno if I'm worthy of such praise. If anything, that only served to further Orion's speech. Well, if you don't feel worthy now, then I can guarantee you by the end of the summer, you will be. He scanned his gaze across the room, making sure that all eyes were on him. Now, as all of you are likely aware, we aided in training a select number of you from this course, around about half of your class. Prime saw Toru raise her hand and he pointed to her. Yes, young Hagakure. Yeah, I'm still kinda confused about that. Toru expressed. Why give only a handful of us that kinda training and not all of us? A very good question. Orion nodded. I'm certain that many of you still remember the USJ incident, correct? The answer was unanimous as the teens gave a resounding, yes. To which Prime continued, well, after that event, the team and I saw that this generation of young heroes would likely continue to be targets for this new breed of villainy. We decided that we wanted to help, but we didn't want to overwhelm all of you at once. So, we carefully selected a handful of you to begin with. That revelation gave Ojiro pause. Oh, I get it. You guys wanted to see how those guys would do to start off with. See if they could handle the pressure. Precisely. Though we also wished to see how the rest of you would progress throughout the semester without the special training. Orion stated. Just to see a clearer comparison. The sports festival would serve as your proving ground, and these finals are effectively the deciding factor. And that brings me to why I am here. Pax slammed his hands on the table with an eager smile. Beginning with this summer training camp, you will all be training under the watch of myself and my team. Woo, that sounds amazing. Sato pumped a fist into the air. Can't wait. However, Tokiyami couldn't help but point something out. Wait, considering that Class 1B will be attending the same training camp, does that mean that they'll be taking lessons from you as well? The question gave everyone pause, with Aoyama speaking up. Indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, I am fairly certain that I saw a few 1B students already accompanying you, Non. Orion pointed to the bird-headed student. An excellent observation. Indeed, 1B will also be receiving this training. And in many ways, their training will be slightly more challenging to catch them up with the rest of you. But don't think that shows favoritism. He narrowed his eyes at the group of teens. Trust me, by the end of this summer, you will likely be wishing for more vacation days. The declaration made the class collectively gulp, and with that assurance instilled in them, the bell for next period rang, signaling the end of Orion's time there. And with that, I believe my time is up. I look forward to seeing you all at summer camp. Mr. Aizawa, you may have the floor again. Thank you for your time, Mr. Pax. Aizawa bowed before resuming his spot. Now, onto the next topic, the semester's closing ceremonies. As their teacher spoke, though, Izuku and the others in the know-all followed Prime with their eyes as he left, and it was clear that he noticed. In return, he sent them a look that said, "We'll speak of this later," before departing, leaving them uncertain about what would happen next. Several hours later, as the day began to wrap up, the whole class remained in the room to discuss the upcoming trip. This is gonna be great. Ojiro said with anticipation. I'm so glad we'll be going all together. As am I, Tenya stated, holding open a guidebook for the camp that Aizawa had passed out to all of them. And it seems we'll be at the training camp for a full week. Whoa, I'd better find a bigger suitcase then, Izuku concluded. Denki was also surprised at the length of their state. Yeah, and I don't even have a bathing suit. Guess I'll need to buy some stuff. Kyoko was more skeptical, though. Would they even let us go swimming? This is a training camp, jamming yay. Well, ya never know. Just then, Toru piped up. Hey guys, since we're off tomorrow and we've finally finished exams, I've got the best idea. Even though no one could see it, she was grinning from ear to ear. Why doesn't Class 1A go shopping together? She suggested excitedly. Immediately, many of her classmates were all for the idea. Hey, yeah, we've never all hung out together as a class before. Sato concurred. It'd be good experience. Shoji agreed as well, while Kota nodded quietly next to him. After all, now that we'll all be under Orion Pax's training regimen, it'd be a good idea to truly get used to one another. Jiro craned his head toward Katsuki, who was just about to leave. Yo, Bakugo, see ya there, right? TCH, the ashen blonde scoffed initially, though as he thought about it more, he realized that he did need to do some preemptive shopping. Gah, you're lucky that I've got nothing better to do tomorrow. Ya know what? I'll take it. Kirishima gave him a thumbs up. See ya there. Izuku approached Shoto as he was about to depart as well. What about you, Todoroki? Will we see you there, too? The white and red-haired boy shook his head, replying, sorry, but I usually visit my mom on days off. Hope you guys have fun, though. Gah, ya big party pooper. Keita bemoaned, giving her best friend a hearty pat on the shoulder. Say hi to your mom for me, though, Kay. Okay. Shoto offered her a small smile. At that moment, though, a thought crossed his mind. Hey, Keita. The Soro Parts user tilted her head, urging him to go on. My mom, she wanted to know when would be a good time for you and her to finally meet up properly. Oh, Keita blushed at the implication. She had only met Endeavor once, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. But now Shoto's mom wanted to meet her, and immediately, she could sense that the vibe was quite different thanks to her friend's tone. Still, She was determined to give an answer. Well, I guess any point before training camp is good, unless something comes up, anyway. Shoto cleared his throat and nodded to her. Ahem, good, maybe sometime next week. Keita approved right away. Why yeah, sounds great. Catch y'all later, Shoto. With that, she watched her best friend walk out the door, and immediately, Keita felt 7 pairs of eyes boring into her from behind. She didn't need to turn around to know that it was her fellow female classmates, all of them wearing knowing smirks. I swear to God, this isn't what it looks like, she mumbled. We didn't say it looked like anything. Mina smirked cheekily. But you two are insanely adorable when you get all awkward like that. Keita mumbled something sheepish under her breath, twiddling her thumbs as Mina announced to the classroom, alright, so it's a plan. Let's all meet at the Kiyoshi Ward shopping mall tomorrow afternoon. The class gave a unanimous, right. Before departing, all of them excited for the next day. Cybertron. A planet that was once the epicenter of a vast, galactic empire with several colonies to its name. It was a planet whose people were once heralded as brave revolutionaries, but now, it stood as a beacon of oppression. A dying planet that was governed by a malevolent dictator. The mighty Megatron. However, at this moment, the Decepticon leader was not in the best of moods. He rarely was these days, granted, but he had just been delivered news that disappointed him greatly. One of his top generals had recently made one of the worst blunders he had ever heard in his career as a military leader, and as such, it behooved him to give him the proper reprimands, which would be a first for Unicronus, who was usually a competent commander. So, allow me to review what you've just told me. Megatron uttered, his voice in a low grumble as he glared at Unicronus through the holoscreen. The general was visibly downcast as the rest of the Darkside crew stood behind him, though they gave him a wide berth considering the situation. You, Unicronus, one of my top generals, decided that it would be a good idea to send a battalion of Viacons to intercept an Autobot convoy near a populated area. Lord Megatron, I wasn't finished. Megatron warned, wagging 2 fingers at the general to silence him. Once he was sure that Unicronus was properly silenced, he continued. Not only did your actions result in an explosion that nearly cost us our secrecy on Earth, but the mission wasn't even a success. And now the Autobots have yet another addition to their ranks. What do you have to say for yourself? With his head still hanging, Unicronus solemnly shook it. I have no excuses, Lord Megatron. I was so eager to impress you after Starscream's accomplishments that I allowed my frustration to cloud my judgment. He kneeled before his master. I can only allow you my utmost apologies, and my assurances that it will not happen again. After a long pause, Megatron gave a single nod. You are correct. It will not. He rose from his seat and glowered at Unicronus. Because as punishment for this near disaster, you are temporarily relieved of your commanding duties aboard the Darkside. The news made Unicronus snap his head up, his jaw slack in disbelief. I am disappointed, Unicronus. I purposefully had you reconstructed into what was to be the perfect soldier. I did not think you capable of making such an extreme blunder. So until you can impress me, your position will be filled by someone of my choosing, and I believe you know exactly who that is. I understand, Lord Megatron. Unicronus grimaced, begrudgingly taking the punishment. But please, tell me what I can do to earn your good graces. I'll do anything you ask. The plea made Megatron smirk sinisterly. I believe you already know what that is, General. Bring Optimus Prime back to Cybertron in chains. Beat him within an inch of his life if you have to, but do not kill him. He leaned in, narrowing his optics to get the point across. I don't believe I have to tell you that honor is for myself alone. Is that clear? Why yes, Lord Megatron. I will do as you say. Good. Now, Starscream. Upon his behest, Megatron saw his second-in-command re-enter the frame, keeping his head low with his optics up. I trust that the meeting with MECH went well, correct? Despite the threatening tone in the Decepticon leader's voice, Starscream wore a confident smirk as he bowed illustriously. In fact, it did, Lord Megatron. Much to my surprise, these humans were quite compliant in the exchange we had. We even got the chance to speak with their benefactor, who is very eager to align with us. He extended a hand as he continued, in addition, they wished to speak with you as well. They want to know exactly who the great Megatron is truly like. The suggestion made Megatron purse his lips, leaning in with a scowl. Did they now? And what exactly did you tell them? Ahem, that if they desired to speak with you, then they'd have to do so at a time when you are available, the Seeker Commander clarified. After all, you are a busy bot. That I am, however, at the same time, I am aware of how beneficial it would be to meet with the leaders of this faction. Rubbing his chin, Megatron gave it some extra thought before coming to his conclusion. Very well. Starscream, upon the away team's arrival in 2 days' time, I would like for you to schedule a meeting with MECH. Tell them that I will be there for it. Bowing once more, Starscream complied. Of course, my lord, I will. Wait, hold on. Back up a bit, please. What did you say? I said that the away team will be there in 3 days. Megatron repeated, much to his annoyance. 2 days. Skybite exclaimed from the back before shuffling into view. Lord Megatron, we thought they wouldn't be here for 2 weeks. The sight of his subordinates squirming brought a slight smile to Megatron's features. Ah, yes, I nearly forgot, I received a call from them just a few mega cycles ago. They're farther ahead of schedule than I had realized, so I would suggest preparing for their imminent arrival. He raised an eyebrow down to his Decepticons. Though I would hope that all of you are already prepared. The Darkside crew were hesitant to respond, but thankfully, Starscream came into cover for them at the last minute. Oh, of course we're in the middle of preparing, Lord Megatron. Considering recent events, I wouldn't dare have this place not be in ship shape when they get here. Hey. Though his optics were still skeptical, Megatron decided to let Starscream off the hook, at least for now. Very well. We shall speak again soon, then. Before he hung up, though, he made sure to add, and Starscream, do not disappoint me again. With that, he ended the call, settling back into his throne. They're probably panicking right now, he concluded. Good. Let's see how they perform under stress. We're scrapped, we are so fragging scrapped. Just as the Decepticon leader predicted, the entire bridge of the Darkside had been thrown into chaos the moment he hung up. Bots were scrambling left and right in utter dread, believing the words that Nitra had just spewed. They had been fully expecting Megatron's away team to arrive in 2 weeks, not 2 days, and nothing was ready. They needed more energon, they had to organize the Viacon ranks, they needed to make sure their ship was in top shape, and there was not enough time to get all that done. What the pit are we gonna do? Swift shouted, her hands flying up to her helm as her processor flew a mile a minute. We can't possibly get everything ready for that walking stereo in 2 days. This is bad. Blastwave hollered, swinging his arms into the air. Mixtape Maker is sure to be disappointed. Swindle had huddled himself into a corner, balled up into a fetal position. I'm dead. Dead. They're gonna bring my head back on a spike for Onslaught to display in his office. Well, it was nice knowing all of ya. Barricade said, resigning to his fate as he knelt down to his mini-con. Frenzy, I bequeath every possession I own to you. Because I know that Audio Nightmare is gonna spare you. However, in a rare moment of calmness, Frenzy himself insisted to the contrary. Hey, come on, Barricade. He wouldn't do that to ya. He's the one who let ya take me, remember? But the crooked cop wasn't so sure. Maybe, but considering what's on the line here, I wouldn't put him past doing a hostile takeover. As things became unglued, the only other ones who kept any measure of composure were Unicronus, Flatline, Skybite, Skullcruncher and Shadow Striker, but even then, their concern was still palpable. When he sees the state of this ship, that sentient tape deck is surely going to want to overthrow the old guard and establish his own. The Sharkticon lamented, all while Dragonus and Sandstink growled worriedly. Indeed. Shadow Striker concurred. We are limited on time and resources. And what's worse, her optics shifted towards Skullcruncher. Z's, Mr. Black, has his meeting scheduled in 2 weeks' time, correct? Yup. Skullcruncher replied, taking a huff of his cigar. And, Primus knows if we can convince him to move it up sooner. His optics shifted down toward Unicronus, whose head was still hung in defeat. Wha'day think, General? Any ideas? Unicronus' tone was one of defeat as he answered, nothing. I have nothing. Surely this must be Megatron's punishment for me. Having to deal with answering to that brown-nosing, voice-synthesized, privacy-invading, bearing-busting, big blue aft. Bam! All of a sudden, everything was brought to a halt after a single punch, delivered by Starscream straight to Unicronus' face. The general was knocked straight to the ground, reeling after the unexpected strike. What is your... Enough! Starscream shouted, his voice echoing throughout the bridge and bringing everyone's attention to him and his brothers. Will all of you just calm the frag down for 2 nanoclicks so I can speak? Once he knew everyone was calm, if only for the moment, he took a deep breath and nodded. Alright, I have a plan. But we need to work together in order to pull it off before they get here. Swindle. With a startled yelp, the con man stood up, standing at attention. Why yes, Starscream. I need you to contact MECH immediately and inform them of the situation. Hopefully Silas could perhaps convince Mr. Black to move his schedule ahead. With that, Starscream turned to the other Decepticons. Now, the game plan will be to separate into clear-cut groups in order to get this place into a presentable state. Thundercracker, Flatline, I leave any and all repairs and maintenance in your hands. Understood. The Blue Seeker affirmed. It shall be done. Flatline saluted. Starscream's optics then shifted toward his dark-painted brother. As for you, Skywarp, I shall leave you in charge of organizing the troops. I need all weapons, energon and other utilities and materials organized as well. Skywarp nodded without hesitation. Sounds simple enough. What about you? Swift and I will be going on a scouting mission to find a new energon vein. The Seeker commander's gaze found his loyal right-hand bot, who was staring at him in confusion. After all, we will need more if we're to be accompanying our new arrivals. Swift, with me. Sure, the green helicopter femme complied, if a bit hesitantly. The duo stepped toward the door, with Starscream nodding to them all. We will be back by tomorrow. I leave you all in Thundercracker and Skywarp's capable hands. He turned to leave, but paused to glance back over his shoulder. Oh, and Unicronus, try not to screw everything up. With that, he led Swift out of the room, and took great satisfaction when he heard something clatter against the door after it shut. It feels so good to lord that over him. Swift offered a brief smirk to him. As much as I agree, Screamer, her features then settled back into being serious. I still don't get what your plan of attack is here. Making the place presentable I get, but what's your real game here? We've got plenty of energon from the mine we're using already. As they walked, Starscream gave a short sigh, and he explained. Swift, we stand on the precipice of a decisive battle. I can feel it. He peered down to her, balling his hand into a tightly clenched fist. And while I have faith that our alliance with MECH will pay in dividends, I also don't want to risk the losses we'll suffer if things somehow go south during this battle. Our new human allies are clever, yes, but in terms of raw strength, they are lacking. Which is why I wish to explore the other side of the coin. You mean, humans who have quirks? Swift concluded. Other villains. Correct, and I know just who to scout. Starscream's smirk returned. Make certain that your signal dampeners are on. It's time to take a little excursion, back to Japan. Oh, great. Swift grimaced, trudging along behind him. Here's hoping it goes better than my last visit. Meanwhile, back in Japan, Sunday had arrived and Class 1A were converging on Kiyoshi Ward's famous shopping mall, where they were excited to spend their day with one another. Those allied with the Autobots had even promised to come and pick the others up as well, so the rest of the class were excited about being chauffeured around the city. But, as they approached their destination, Ochako, Suyu and Momo couldn't help but dwell on what the Autobots had told them last night. So, you really wanna tell everybody after camp, huh? The announcement had been a surprise to all of them, for sure. Indeed, Optimus had made his intentions clear. They were going to aid in training the both Class A and Class B over the course of their stay at camp, and then reveal themselves at the very end. Needless to say, it was an exciting prospect, though as expected, some of the teens still had reservations about it. I know, it's very sudden. RC said as she pulled into the mall parking lot. That's putting it mildly. Sue said bluntly. But we have faith that the rest of your class can be trusted to know this secret, the Autobot intelligence officer assured. It's like Prime said, the sports festival and the final exams were the determining factor in this decision, and he's positive that, at this point, your peers are trustworthy. Plus, we'll be doing it out in the middle of a forest where no one else can see us, so there's even less risk of others finding out. Momo placed a hand upon her chin in thought. I suppose that makes sense. Still, why wait until after the training camp? Why not just tell them right out the gate? As she parked herself, RC went on, well, it's because we won't be the only ones who'll be helping you train. I can't say who else is gonna be there, but from what I've heard, they're pretty serious pros. Ochako couldn't help but scrunch her face in confusion. Okay, but you already have a bunch of pros who know your secret. Why not reveal it to them as well? There's a chance we will, actually. Optimus just wants to make certain that they're on the up and up, too. With Selkie and Sirius, we already knew they could be trusted thanks to them taking in sea spray. But from what I've heard of these heroes, they're a bit eccentric. Shaking her head, Sadie turned back toward the group of girls and nudged her head toward the mall. But we can talk about all of this once camp rolls around. Right now, you ladies should head out. They're waiting for you. You're right, Ribbit. Sue concurred, opening her door, which led to the others doing the same. Thanks for the ride, RC. Ochako sent her guardian a departing wave. Yeah, we'll see you later on. As the three of them left, it didn't take long for them to spot the other Autobots, Bulkhead, Bumblebee, Strongarm and Sideswipe, namely because they were directly next to them. You gals had better get movin', Bulkhead urged. They're already at the front gate waiting for you. Strongarm added as well. True to form, the three girls saw their classmates waving them down from the front of the mall. And, to their surprise, Bakugo was true to his word, he was there as well. Though he was pretty standoffish with the rest of the group, standing mainly with Kirishima. Huh, well, it seems the angry volcano chose to join us. Momo observed. Yeah, talk about a surprise. Ochako shrugged. Well, come on, let's go. After a quick jog, the girls met up with them and they went in. Needless to say, the open-air mall was gargantuan, with stores that specialized in several different products. From electronics, to entertainment, to clothing, there was something for everyone. There were even specialty stores for people who had certain types of quirks. And it was all under one roof. I love this place, Mina exclaimed. They've got a ton of different stores to shop at and they're all super cool. Craning his head around, Sato couldn't even make heads or tails of the place. Man, Ishido, I'm glad you've been here before. I don't even know where to start. Next to him, Koda was also feeling intimidated by his surroundings, especially given how many people there were. Zero was very much in the same boat as them. Yeah, there's so much stuff going on here, and a lot of people, too. Indeed, Tokiyami concurred. Be on your guard, everyone, lest we. Hey. Aren't those UA students? Too late. It already happened. Get recognized. The bird-headed teen grimaced. And just like that, others began to call out enthusiastically to them as well. Hey, yeah, it's Class 1A. I saw him on TV. The sports festival was so good. Even though they were being praised, Ochako still shrunk back in surprise. Haha, I can't believe they still remember that, she chuckled nervously. That feels like a lifetime ago. Well, let's try to be as cordial as possible with them. Momo resolved. We may be here to shop for ourselves today, but if we're rude to them, that'll reflect poorly as his future heroes. The group collectively agreed to her point before she went over to the gravity-using brunette. Now, Uraraka, is there anything you need here today? Mostly just bug spray, really. Ochako shrugged. Gotta keep those pests away, right? The creation user pondered on that. Is that so? She lowered her voice to a whisper. Well, what would you say if everything we was my treat today? Reaching into her purse, Momo flashed her credit card, which made Ochako's eyes widen. Seriously. Ochako received a single nod, which made her smile and tap her fingertips together. Well, there is this cute duffel bag that I've had my eye on for a while. Excellent. I'll make it happen. Keita, meanwhile, was looking at a nearby map of the mall to try and figure out where she needed to go. Alright, gotta find a place that's got night vision goggles. Her saying that left many confused. Huh, Keita, why do you need night vision goggles? Toru inquired. You could probably just transform into a dinosaur that can see well at night, can't you? Well, yeah, but I think they'd be handy for others to have. Behind his mask, Shoji smiled at her generosity. Such selflessness. Very commendable, Kiryu. Kirishima craned his head toward his ashen blonde friend, who still mainly stood away from the rest of the class. So, what you need, man? HMPH, mostly just some clothes and junk. Bakugo replied. Don't have much for outdoor stuff. Yeah, me either. Denki related. I need some new shoes, or maybe even boots. All of a sudden, Tenya piped up, making both blondes jump in surprise. The guide says your shoes should already be broken in, though. He chided the duo before suddenly realizing something. But wait, perhaps it's a mistake not to factor utility into the equation. Katsuki growled and ran a hand through his hair. Remind me why I chose to come here with you people. Relax, man. Hey, I got an idea. Kirishima spoke out to his classmates to relay said idea. Why don't we split up and look around? We can meet back up again when we're done. Sounds like a plan. Mina supported, followed by several others. Perfect, so let's say we're all back here around 3. Once the class agreed to Kirishima's set time, they all wandered off to do their own things, leaving only a certain duo behind. Izuku and Kyoka stood in the middle of the mall, the mood between them being quiet aside from the people walking by. But that didn't last long, with only taking a moment for Izuku to break the silence. I'm starting to notice a pattern. Kyoka tilted her head up to him, raising a brow. Ya mean the fact that people like to leave us to ourselves a lot? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Izuku scratched his cheek sheepishly. So, what are you gonna be searching for today? A lot. Kyoka wrapped one of her jacks around her finger, her features puckering in irritation. If ya hadn't noticed, I'm not exactly the most outdoorsy type. Hey, same here, Izuku admitted. I mean, I used to be when I was a kid, but, well. Yeah, once more, the awkward silence befell the two, but Kyoka was determined to keep the conversation going. Well, maybe we could help each other out with this. She balled her fists and nudged her head toward the nearby map. Come on, let's see if we can find a store specifically for outdoor supplies. Just as they were about to do so, however, someone spoke up from behind. Well, if it isn't the writer Otaku 1A students. The voice was very familiar to both of them, their eyes widening at how casual the greeting was. That and the writer Otaku remark quickly led them to one conclusion as to who it was, and sure enough, when they turned around, they saw him, the young, handsome man with the long, white and red scarf they had met at the convention hall from weeks before. He flicked his head, moving his neatly combed hair away from his eyes in a fairly cool manner. What a coincidence, running into you here of all places. Needless to say, Izuku and Kyoka were flabbergasted. It's you, they shouted. As the duo were having their reunion, though, a certain other person was making their way through the mall at that very moment. Someone who all of 1A would be very familiar with if they had seen him with his usual hand mask on. But, at the moment, Tamura Shigaraki was without said accessory, freely showing his ghoulish, scarred face out in public. He kept his head low and his hood up as he walked through the mall, and absolutely no one paid him any mind. It was both a relief and served to piss him off. Up to the current point, Shigaraki had been having a less than pleasing day. An informant for the league had come by to drop off some new potential recruits. Some ditzy blonde who seemed to wanna suck his blood and a guy whose plastic surgeon had not been paid enough. But the thing was, neither of them were there for his vision. They came because they had been inspired by the hero killer, which pissed Shigaraki off even more. Ever since the Hosu incident, no one was talking about anything aside from Stain's proclamations, the Nomu attacks having gone largely ignored by the general public. But even so, because of the intersection, the media now associated Stain with the League, and Tamura didn't like that. Even now, he could hear Stain's words echoing in his head. What meaning is there to kill if you don't have any real convictions? HRMPH, just you wait, hero killer. Shigaraki vowed in his head, his blood-red eyes scanning across the mall, observing the happy-go-lucky citizens around him. These people think they're safe, like nothing can harm them. I dunno if they're naive or just ignorant. People are getting killed somewhere at this very moment, but these idiots keep smiling. They don't have a care in the world. Whoa. Hero killer gear. The sudden exclamation made Tamura stop, craning his head toward a nearby store to see two young men observing replicas of the hero killer's costume. Are they seriously selling this? Said the eager boy as he reached up to grab a mask. The more hesitant of the two was warning him not to, though. Dude, you're gonna get in so much trouble if you buy that. Sure, but how does it look? The eager boy turned to his friend, binding the mask around his head. Yeah, pretty cool. His friend concurred before snapping a pic of it. Shigaraki was not impressed, but even then, he couldn't deny that the hero killer had a profound effect on society after the incident. On the other hand, you've got sympathizers who couldn't care less about your ideals. And yet they still follow you. What's up with that? Aren't we doing the same thing? This was the question that boggled his mind as he kept walking. In the end, you destroy things you hate just like I do. So what gives? What's the difference? Bump. Ah. Hey, watch where you're. Just as he was about to snap at whoever bumped into him, Tamura stopped, his voice dying in his throat as he gazed upon the very tall man he had bumped into. He had to be at least 6'5", had a slender yet muscular build, and his sharp, chiseled features were incredibly threatening, even to him. His slick, black hair was combed back, and he had dark sideburns that led down into a sharp goatee at his chin. Like Tamura, he also had red eyes, though his had an unnatural red glow to them. That said, the clothes he wore were weird, though somehow, he made the ensemble work. He was donned in a white suit, its sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His gloves and shoes were blue, which stood out along with his bright red vest. Couple all of that with an orange tie and it made for a strange color combination that managed to mix together strangely well. Standing next to him was a young woman who was a full foot shorter than him, and she was also in a business suit, though hers was all green. She wore a black undershirt with matching gloves and shoes, and like him, she also wore an orange tie which matched her eyes. Her hair was jet black, long and wavy, reaching down to her rear. Though most notably of all, her skin was a pale green. And Shigaraki was sure that she wasn't sick or anything, because she was immediately boring a hole into him for his comment. Hey, you're the one who bumped into him, bucko. Show some respect. Now, Sheila, let's not be hasty. The man waved his hand, peering down closer to Tamura for a moment. I believe that he is the one that we've been sent to find. At that point, Shigaraki was very confused. Me. Yeah, him. The one called Sheila, echoed. The tall man nodded. Indeed. He lowered his voice to a whisper and asked, your name wouldn't happen to be Tamura Shigaraki, would it? The blue-haired villain narrowed his eyes. Who wants to know? Someone who would like to pursue a business venture. The sharp-featured man smirked. Though perhaps we should take this to where we won't be disturbed, Ultimately, Shigaraki agreed, resolving that they wouldn't use his name if they didn't have a good reason to. So, the three of them headed outside of the mall, without even paying any mind to the green and purple-haired students that were not but 20 feet away from their position. Once they were out of the mall and huddled under a nearby tree, Shigaraki leaned up against it and asked, all right, I'll bite. Who do you work for? Ah, we are representatives from an international villain organization, the tall man answered. One who is interested in partnering with the League of Villains here in Japan. We were planning on seeking you out after doing a bit of perusing of the local establishments, but we certainly didn't expect you to fall right into our laps like this. HMPH, lucky you. Lemme guess, you're from America, right? The guess made the man's eyebrows raise. Actually, we're from Canada. If anything, that got Shigaraki to snicker. SNRK, haha, okay, that's honestly rich. You're operating out of one of the most peaceful countries on the planet, you know that, right? Believe me, I wish the circumstances were different, the man grimaced before shaking his head. But that's not the point. The point is that we're here to discuss business with you on behalf of our leader. That's so. Shigaraki pointed at them. Well, you're gonna have to do some pretty good convincing if you want me to hear you out. I mean, what kind of villains peruse through a shopping mall? Sheila folded her arms across her chest, raising a brow to the hooded villain. Well, at least we've got the common decency to go out in our Sunday best. Meanwhile, you're going around dressed like you're just asking for trouble." Shigaraki simply scoffed her way. "PSH, whatever, lady. So let me guess, you heard about the League because of the hero killer, right?" "In part, yes, but he is the main reason why we're here," the tall man revealed, which actually made Tamura perk his head up. "We've had our eye on your operations since the USJ incident, believe it or not." "We did," Sheila muttered, only for the man to nudge her with his elbow. I mean, yeah. Totally did. Impressive stuff, kid." While Shigaraki was somewhat glad that the duo weren't making this meeting all about Stain, he still couldn't help but be a bit pessimistic about it. "HMPH, well, you two would be the first. Compared to the other two I met this morning who wanna join, they made it all about Stain, Stain, Stain," he grumbled. Slipping his hands into his pockets, the tall man pursed his lips in thought. Sounds to me like you and he didn't exactly see eye to eye." "That's putting it mildly." Tamura leaned his back against the tree, keeping his head low as he began airing his grievances. "When it comes down to it, I basically hate everything. But it's the hero killer who's pissing me off the most right now. The media made him out to be one of our guys when he never technically was. And even now, everyone's obsessed with him. The attack on UA, the Nomus I released on Hosu, he upstaged all of it. No one's giving me a second thought." Sheila clicked her tongue at that. "Tisk, tough break, kid," she empathized, nudging her head toward her boss. "My friend here can relate. Indeed, I have been upstaged several times by my peers in attempts to impress our leader in the past," the man related. "It's only recently that I've gone back on the upswing." The young villain took a moment to consider that, and before long, he felt compelled to ask, "Then maybe why is this happening?" Despite what he claims to believe, all he really did was try to get rid of things he didn't like. So what's the difference? Why's he getting all the fame while I rot in the background? The man pondered on the question presented to him for a moment before eventually coming to an answer. If you ask me, the difference comes down to one simple thing. Inspiration. He saw Tamura's confusion and elaborated further. "If you recall, the hero killer was inspired by All Might, was he not? In the most twisted sense possible, yes, but still inspired. He was a maniac, but he didn't destroy things just because it sounds fun. He did it in the name of building a stronger society, a futile effort if you want my opinion, but still." He extended a hand toward Shigaraki. "Meanwhile, your operations ended because you pulled out before you could finish the job. He held true to his beliefs, while you run at the first sign of trouble. That is the difference." Once more, there was a lengthy silence that permeated through the air, with Shigaraki not moving a single inch after the man spoke his piece. At first, the pair were concerned that he might lash out, so they kept their guard up, but eventually, he let out a hefty sigh. That's like a weight off my chest," he said as his lips curled into a crooked grin. "I see it now, all the dots connected." "Is that so?" the man asked. "Yes, it's clear as day. Why the hero killer makes me angry, and why that little green brat irritates me so much, too." That last comment earned him some inquisitive looks before his smile widened. It's him. The problem is All Might. It's the most rational explanation." He spun around, facing them all once again. "I didn't see it even though it was right in front of me the whole time. He's the reason why all these morons are able to smile so thoughtlessly. They feel so safe because that garbage pro is smiling thoughtlessly too. As if there's no one in the world he can't save." Sheila knit her brows together as he went on his tirade, leaning toward her cohort in concern. Is that really the lesson here? You mentioned All Might only once and now he's..." But the man raised a finger, giving her a knowing smile. Let's not be hasty, he actually is getting it here. I'm very glad we had this chat." Shigaraki expressed his gratitude, his features etched with determination. "I feel so much better, you have no idea. The hero killer's going to sincerely regret letting me live," his hand balled into a fist. "Because now, convictions will become a stepping stone for myself. Thank you. Wait. I just realized, I never got your name." Yes. My name." Sheila's eyes widened at that, glancing up to her boss nervously. She had come to her organic name fairly quickly, but just from the brief flash of nervousness, she could see that the Sky Commander hadn't given his own much thought. However, that only lasted a brief second as he put on his own confident grin and declared. My name is, Ulktar. And again, the palpable awkward silence returned. Sheila wanted to facepalm so badly after hearing that, but before she could, Shigaraki broke the tension for her. Wow, no wonder you're a villain. Your parents must have hated you. Why yes they did. The man now known as, Ulktar, quickly saved face, all while Sheila resisted the urge to burst out laughing. Even so, he cleared his throat to move on from the subject. Ahem, in any case, in exchange for my aid in helping you find this new conviction of yours, perhaps we could potentially work out an alliance between our two groups. As I've said, my leader is quite interested in aiding your cause. Oh, you know it. Shigaraki accepted without hesitation, reaching into one of his pockets to pull out a card. Ulktar gingerly took the slip of paper, seeing nothing but a phone number on it. This is the easiest way you can get in touch with me and the League. Whenever your leader's feeling it, give me a call and we'll talk business. Ulktar grinned and slipped the card into his own pocket. We will. Best of luck to you, young Shigaraki. I'm certain that the League you put together will make history. However, he raised a single finger. But one last thing, let's keep this meeting confidentially between the three of us for the time being, shall we? Tamura raised a brow at that. PSH, what? Worried I might tell the wrong people you were here. Not exactly. Rather, our leader has certain plans that are already underway, so it may be a while before he can get back to you. Ulktar gave the villain a departing nod. For now, simply keep doing what you're doing, and we'll hopefully be in touch with you soon. Sheila sent the young man a two-fingered salute. Ciao, kid, and remember, we were never here. HMPH, gotcha. Well, you know how to reach me. Later. And with that, the three villains went their separate ways, with Shigaraki thinking up all the ways he'd be screwing the heroes over from that point forward. Meanwhile, Swift was giving Starscream a hard time. SNRK, Ulktar. Seriously. She snorted back a laugh. We shall never speak of this again, the Seeker's holoform grimaced. Am I clear? Oh, we won't, but I'll remember it until the day I go offline. Starscream facepalmed before both of their human disguises turned down a dark alleyway and faded away into thin air. I brought this upon myself, didn't I? Back in the mall, Izuku and Kyoko were busy chatting it up with the familiar face they had come across, both of them pleasantly surprised by his presence. Wow, what are the chances we'd run into you here? Izuku said before giving the young man a bow. It's good to see you again. Nice to see you, too. The man bowed, adding, fellow writer connoisseur. Izuku nearly fell over at that, with Kyoko rolling her eyes and shaking her head. PSH, gosh, it's been a while since we saw ya at that writer convention. About a month, I wanna say. I think so, yes, the young man affirmed, only to then ponder on something. Though by now, you kids must be going through your final exams for the semester, right? Actually, we just finished those a couple days ago. Izuku gave a thumbs up. And we passed. Well then congratulations. I'm sure that UA exams must be quite difficult, even for first years like yourselves. Glad you made it through. Kyoko gave a short sigh, her shoulders sagging a bit. Yeah, trust me, it was far from an easy time. Just then, though, she remembered something important. Hey, wait a second, I don't think we ever got your name back then, did we? The man's eyebrows rose up in realization. No, actually. I never did give my name out to you, did I? Just then, his eyes shifted from side to side, almost as if he was on the lookout for something, only to then turn back to the teens. Come on, let's sit down. I'll tell you my name, but I don't want to risk too many people listening in. Needless to say, the teens were perplexed, but they did as he requested, the three finding a secluded bench where very few people were walking by. As they sat, Izuku tilted his head to the man. Is there something wrong? You're not on the run or anything, are you? No, nothing like that, the young man assured, gesturing toward his features. Believe me, if I was an escaped felon, I wouldn't have anywhere to hide with a face like this. Ya know, that's fair. Kyoko admitted. So what is the big deal, anyway? Once more, the man's eyes shifted around, making certain the coast was clear before telling them. The big deal is that I'm a bit of a secret agent. Just from their expressions alone, he could tell that the teens were skeptical. So he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, black leather holder, opening it to reveal a gold-plated badge. I'm with the International Police. Codename, Ace. And just like that, the teens were left slack-jawed. Why, you're with Interpol? Izuku exclaimed in a harsh whisper. Holy crap, Kyoka said breathlessly. Though you don't exactly look the part. You seem pretty young, honestly. Giving them a charming smile, Ace snapped his fingers, pointing to them with a wink. That's what makes me the best to handle jobs like the one I'm on now. An unassuming appearance can get you anywhere. It also helps that I'm what you might call a prodigy in my field. The teens had to admit that was a valid point. Well, guess I can't argue that. Izuku accepted. So what are you doing in Musudafu? Slipping his badge back into his pocket, Ace continued on. I'm here to investigate the goings-on of the League of Villains, along with certain strange, unexplainable phenomena that's been occurring for the past several months. His brow furrowed as he gave examples: strange road incidents, unexplainable damage to the surrounding area, that sort of thing. Road incidents, Izuku murmured. And, area damage? Kyoka asked, all while her mind went a million miles a minute. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Ace nodded to the both of them before taking out his phone, which was oddly rather big and clunky in design, even with the flat screen. Yes, and I think I'm on the trail of something big here. Do you kids remember this incident from the beginning of April? Once he showed them what was on his phone, Izuku and Kyoka felt their jaws fall open even further. There, playing on the screen, was video footage of the meteor shower event. Which, in reality, was the Autobots' arrival to Earth. But of course, they couldn't let him know that. Why yeah, the meteor shower. Izuku replied. That was pretty scary. No kidding. Kyoka concurred. One of our classmates actually had one of those land in her backyard pool. Really? Ace's eyes lit up with intrigue, making Kyoka immensely regret what she'd just said. Would she happen to be here? I saw you gathered with a bunch of other kids earlier, so I can only assume they're your classmates. Thinking fast, Kyoka made up an excuse. Well, yeah, but she doesn't really like talking about it. We've tried getting her to open up about it, but it never goes well. She hated to lie about what her friend was like, but they needed to get this Interpol agent off the trail. Sorry, Keita. With a short sigh, Ace nodded. I see. Well, if she ever wants to air her grievances to someone who'll investigate the cause, let me know. What do you mean by the cause, exactly? Izuku inquired. I mean that I don't believe that the meteor shower was something natural that Musudafu just so happened to be in the way of. Ace explained with a serious gaze. Because right around this time, the incidents began to happen much more frequently. And if you ask me, once more, he took a quick glance around, making sure that no one overheard him. I theorize that this may be the first credible evidence of alien life that we've had in centuries. And that served to make the duo even more nervous. Aliens. Really? Kyoka stammered, trying to sound as disbelieving as possible. Ha, that's a good one. The young agent was left perplexed by her response. What? You're saying that in a world full of quirks, aliens are out of the question? Well, I wouldn't say that, the punk rocker clarified. It's just that it honestly sounds too much like something out of a sci-fi movie to be real. I mean, alien life arriving to Earth on meteors. How cliché can you get, right? Well, it may sound cliché, but I'm still confident that I'm onto something here. Slipping his phone back into his pocket, Ace shook his head to change the subject. But I probably shouldn't be getting you kids involved with this anyways. You've got summer vacation coming up after all, so it's best not to worry you with this serious stuff. Izuku sighed, partly in relief and also anxiousness. Yeah, we've got a big summer ahead of us, that's for sure. The Hero Course students are actually all gonna be going to a training camp out in the woods, so it's gonna be a pretty big deal. Once again, Ace was fascinated by what the boy said. That's so. Guess even during the summer, the lessons never truly end. Hope you kids do well there. But that's when he realized something else. Wait, is that why your whole class was here? Because you're all prepping for the training camp? The greenette nodded back to him. We're just gearing up on some essentials. Oh, right. Izuku craned his head down to Kyoka. We were searching for a sporting goods store of some kind, right? Gah, you're right. Her eyes shifting toward the large, central clock, Kyoka took note of the time. And it's already 1:30. We've only got another hour and a half to look around before we meet up with the others. Well, what are you two waiting for? Ace encouraged, urging them to go on. No need to stick around on my account. Besides, I've got some friends that I need to meet up with soon anyways. He stood up from the bench, smiling as he said confidently, I'm sure we'll run into each other again at some point, though. For now, you two should get going. Standing up as well, the teens gave Ace a departing bow. Right. It was nice seeing you again, Mr. Ace. Izuku expressed. Hey, please, kid. Just, Ace, is fine. The handsome young man lifted his hand, giving them his signature gesture with his pointer and pinky fingers raised while pressing his middle and ring fingers against his thumb. See you, he said in English. See you later. Kyoka reciprocated before tugging on Izuku's arm. Come on, let's get back to that map. And just like that, the two were off, leaving Ace by his lonesome. But not for long. Oi, Ace. Perking up, Ace did an about-face and saw two of his aforementioned friends approaching. Both were young men, though in terms of appearance, they were like night and day. The one on the left was wearing a dark leather jacket over a purple undershirt, with black jeans and combat boots to match. Around his neck were a set of dog tags, and brown hair went down past his shoulders, with part of it done up in a small bun at the back. You done chatting or what? He said in a low voice, almost as if he were disinterested in what was going on. Ace simply chuckled and shrugged it off. Yes, I am, but then, he noticed that someone was missing. Wait, where's Neon? The young man on the right placed his hand to his neck sheepishly. He had straggly brown hair that almost fell over his eyes, and he wore a green striped, button-up shirt over a white t-shirt, along with khaki pants and white sneakers. About that, she kinda got distracted by all the shops and we lost her in the crowd, he explained. We've been trying to find her, but... Kawa, Michi. The two boys snapped their heads around, seeing a young woman approach them from behind with her arms full of shopping bags. She had shoulder-length brown hair and wore a bright yellow blouse with a long, black skirt that had floral patterns across it. She also wore pink slip-on shoes, and her bright smile was enough to light up a whole room. There you guys are. Where'd you go? Where'd we go? Asked the leather-clad man. We should be asking you that. And where in the heck did you get all of that? The young woman, presumably Neon, set her bags down on the bench where Ace once sat. Where do you think? Ace was kind enough to let us tag along, so I figured I should take advantage of the opportunity. When's the next time we'll be able to shop in a totally different world, right? Thankfully, I brought plenty of cold, hard cash with me. With a roll his eyes, the leather-clad man shook his head, only for the green-clothed man to reassure him. Relax, Mikanaga. You're being so serious about this. Only because this is a serious assignment, Kawa. Mikanaga countered, his eyes shifting back toward Ace. So, was that green-haired kid the one you were talking about? He is, and it seems Tsukasa-kun has taken a great interest in him. Ace confirmed. He says the boy will play a key role in the future, of both this world and of worlds beyond. Neon seemed excited to hear this. Ooh, that's great. So, what's our next step? For now, we continue to observe. But, should they need our help? Raising his hand, Ace snapped his fingers. That's when we'll make our move. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the Interpol badge, which suddenly shined with a bright blue light and transformed into something completely different. Now in his hands, he held a small, cylindrical object that had two wedge-shaped protrusions at the top. It was mostly transparent white, but in the center was a circular red mark that had a symbol in its center, one that somewhat resembled a kitsune mask with rather large eyes. Clutching the object in his hand, Ace came to his conclusion, after all, this universe deserves a good highlight. However, little did the quartet know, that they were being watched. From behind a nearby pillar, Katsuki Bakugo had been listening in on the conversation for a while, having seen Deku and Jiro go to talk to the officer. And then he heard them talking about the other worlds, and the aliens, and that's when his suspicion began to peak. He wasn't sure what all of this was about, but he did know one thing: Deku was at the center of it all. Damn nerd, what the hell is going on here? Chapter 91, Terrorizing the Road. Within the solitary confines of the League of Villains base, Kurogiri stood vigil over his two guests from behind his bar counter, waiting patiently for Tamura Shigaraki's return. At least, he was. The other two were having trouble sitting still, though at least one of them was taking it easier than the other. It had been like this for well over 2 hours, and while he managed to convince them to stay, he wasn't certain how much longer they'd be able to tolerate this. In one of the booths, their first guest sat with his arms crossed over his chest, keeping his head low and his piercing blue eyes locked on his drink. He wore dark blue clothes over a white undershirt, his black, spiky hair adding to his overall dark demeanor. Though what was most off-putting about him was his appearance. He had multiple burn marks across his skin, namely his jawline, under his eyes, and across his neck. He even had silver piercings that made it look like the lower half of his face was stapled on, and his arms were wrapped in white bandages that indicated that he had even more burns than that. His other guest, meanwhile, appeared to be much more normal. A young lady with blonde hair tied into two messy buns, wearing a schoolgirl's uniform with a wool sweater that was just a bit too big for her. Her yellow eyes, however, had a crazed look to them, the heavy bags underneath only adding to that. And when she opened her mouth, she revealed that her canine teeth were much sharper than that of a normal person. "Gah, what's taking that guy so long?" she groaned. "I wanna start following in the steps of my hero, Mr. Stain." Kurogiri kept composed as he addressed her. "Miss Himiko Tagata, I can assure you that Tamura Shigaraki will return as soon as I'm done waitin'," the man asserted, starting to stand up from his booth. "I ain't waitin' for some crybaby to get over himself. If he won't come back, then I'll get what I want done my way." He proceeded toward the door, waving the two others off. "It's been real, I guess. Dabi, hold on." Himiko smiled eagerly, hopping up from her seat. "Maybe we could do this as a twosome. Those dummy heroes would never expect it." Before Dabi could even say a word, however, the door to the bar swung open and slammed against the wall, revealing Shigaraki. The duo were taken aback by the rather excited smile that he was wearing. It was almost enough to make their skin crawl. "Tamura Shigaraki," Kurogiri greeted. "What is the meaning of good news?" Shigaraki pointed at the two recruits in front of him. "You're both hired." Himiko's eyes lit up instantly and she pumped her fists into the air. "Ah, yes. This is the best day ever." She promptly kicked her leg back and fell onto her back, giggling like the crazed woman that she was. Dabi, however, was perplexed as Tamura walked right past him. "PSH, what? You go for a walk and come back with a changed mind." Even Kurogiri had to admit, this was quite abrupt for the young villain. "I must concur, Tamura Shigaraki. What exactly happened while you were away?" Tamura chortled darkly as he sat at the bar, lacing his hands together with an eager grin. HM, Kurogiri, I met the most fascinating man today. A man who helped me realize something I hadn't before, what my problem was. The thing that I couldn't figure out no matter how much I tried, why the hero killer bothered me so much." He folded his hands out and raised them up high. The answer was so clear that it might as well have been staring me in the face. "It's All Might. He's the common link. Me, the hero killer, even that stupid green-haired idiot in Class 1A. It's all connected. Has he lost it?" Dabi wondered out loud. Himiko sat up on the floor, her smile undaunting. "Hee, sounds to me like Shigi's got the right idea. If All Might's the problem, then maybe I should drink his blood next." Hey. "Oh, we're gonna be doing a lot more than that, girly," Shigaraki vowed. "And I owe it all to someone with the dumbest name imaginable." "Do tell," Kurogiri said curiously. "Who did you meet today?" "Someone from an overseas villain faction whose leader is interested in working with us," Tamura revealed, his smile increasing with anticipation. "And I've got a feeling that we're gonna be knowing more about him very soon." Autobot Outpost Omega-1, the next day. Izuku had to admit, for as elated as he was to be attending UA, it felt incredibly gratifying to finally cap off the semester. Once the closing ceremonies were over, complete with a very drawn-out speech from Tenya, the gang wasted no time in charging straight for the parking lot where their Autobot companions waited for them. And they had every right to rush, because this was a very important day in more ways than one. Sure, it was the last day of school before summer vacation, but it was also the day that the Autobots would attempt to accomplish their main mission on Earth, locate the Ark. Recovering Seaspray's pod was the first step in that endeavor, and the next would be to salvage whatever they could in order to make something that could help them find the lost ship. Thankfully, many of the main control components were still intact, and while water damage was extensive, May and Red Alert were determined to get it working. And by the end of the weekend, they were at least 85% sure that they were on the path to accomplishing their goal. What about the other 15%, though? Kyoka had asked. I try not to think about that percentage, May said, swiping her hand across her neck. That didn't inspire much confidence, but the margin for error was small enough that they were still hopeful that this new device would work. The only left to do was to proceed with what May had called Operation Ping. An odd name to be sure, but one that Izuku and Kyoka understood after watching them build the device on Sunday after their shopping trip. For the others, though, this would be the first time seeing it, and they were excited. Ooh, I can't believe it's finally happening. Mina cheered. We're finally gonna find the Ark. Bulkhead, however, tried to temper her expectations. Whoa ho ho, let's not jump the gun here, Mina. After all, there's still a chance this might not work. Springer echoed the sentiments of his best friend, being just a bit more pessimistic. Yeah, while I'm hoppin', the plan'll work, I'm not gonna hold my breath if it doesn't. Wow, being a sour stick in the mud today, aren't we? Mina placed her hands on her hips, cocking her head to the side. And what's up with you, Springs? Hey, I'm just trying to be realistic. The triple changer rationalized, holding his hands up defensively. Being a wrecker, I've learned it's best not to get her hopes up. He craned his head over toward the device as everyone began gathering around it in intrigue. It was a tall antenna that was placed atop the base, with red alert and signal flare making sure it was secured to the roof. I've seen makeshift antennas like this that were made by my old platoon buddies when we were stranded once. Didn't work fair scrap. There were 5 of us on that mission, only 2 came back. Hearing that left Mina astonished. Oh, who was the other bot? Just then, a certain gurgling voice piped up. Looking at, I am. His mighty footsteps shaking the ground, Seaspray approached his fellow wreckers, kneeling down with Sue perched on his shoulder. That mission on Kyber 5 was no joke. We lost plenty of good friends, that's for sure. Dogfight, Backstreet, Hubcap, miss those guys. He raised his fist, clenched with determination. But I have faith that this one will work. After all, we have something that we didn't have on that other mission. And what would that be? Springer questioned. Bots who know what the frag they're doing. The oceanic specialist answered cheekily, nudging his chin up toward the 2 engineers. Not one of us knew how to put a distress beacon together, ya know. Sue placed a finger to her chin. A fair point, but why are they assembling it on top of the base? Choom asterisk, because it's the highest point of elevation we got around here. The sound of loud jet engines alerted the group to Jetfire's arrival, the air commander transforming in midair before making his landed. Any lower and all this foliage could block the signal. Mina nodded her head at that. Yeah, makes sense. She set her sights out across the beach, where all of the Autobots and their human allies were gathered. Still, it's pretty insane how far we've come, ya know. Look at how many of us there are compared to when we started. Yep, 17 Autobots and 16 human children. Springer chuckled. Hey, and pretty sure the cons are afraid of most of you. Who'd have thought, huh? Raising her head, Mina puffed out her chest with a proud smile. We're on our way to be heroes and con crushers. Bulkhead, however, took the subject a bit more seriously. Springs, I wouldn't be too confident about that if I were you. He set his optics down to his human companion. Same with you, Mina. Sure, some of the cons who are currently here might be afraid of you kids, but if more come along. Ones who are an even bigger threat. Exactly. Jetfire concurred. Then that's a major problem. Especially if they're more competent than Starscream's group of ragtags. That managed to shake Mina's confidence a bit. Yeah, you've got a point, there. But that's the whole reason we're making that thing, right? She pointed up toward the antenna. To find the other Autobots so that'll be less of a problem. Just then, another voice interjected into the conversation. Yes, but while it may be less, it's still a problem. The group shifted their attention toward Red Alert as he and Signal Flare approached, with May and Longarm at their heels. Make no mistake, the increase in Autobot numbers would be a boon for us, certainly. However, you underestimate the full scope of the Decepticon Empire. Megatron has an army in the millions while we Autobots are only several thousand strong. You can thank his Viacon forces for that overwhelming advantage. Signal Flare added. But aren't they just nameless grunts? Mina asked, punching the air as she did so. I've seen you guys knock 'em guys around like Tinker Toys. Longarm made his way forward to give his 2 cents. Maybe, but you've never seen a true armada of them can do. And then there are even bigger types of Viacons that are harder to take down. Leapers are one of them, but then there's Destroyer and Giant types. Destroyer. Mina stammered. Giant. Suyu gulped nervously. Yes, and pray that those types of Viacons never see their way to Earth. Red Alert grimaced. There are many reasons as to how Megatron took over Cybertron, after all. And 2 of them are numbers and sheer firepower. The 2 human girls were left with a rather harrowing feeling after that. Wow, it sounds overwhelming, Ribbit. Sue croaked nervously. Signal Flare lowered his head. It is. And if you think that's bad, just be thankful that you haven't come face to mandible with Insecticons yet. And just like that, Mina's shade of pink became much paler. Insecticons. Yeah, lost plenty of other friends to those fragging pests, too. Springer muttered. They ain't as thorough as scraplets are, but they'll still eat ya alive if ya aren't careful. He trailed off when he saw Mina shaking like a leaf, and he immediately tried to lighten the mood by changing the topic. But mark my words, we won't let that happen to ya, kid. Honest. Hey Doc, don't ya think it's time we fired up your beacon? Hey, yeah, May piped up, bouncing her way next to the girls to get Red's attention. Let's get this party started. HMPH, I suppose it is time. Red Alert agreed, motioning out toward the trail leading toward base. After all, they're here. They all turned around to see Optimus Prime come rolling down the dirt road, pulling to a stop to let All Might out of the driver's seat before he transformed. The number 1 hero immediately made their presence known to everyone else. Ahahaha, we are here, to witness quite the momentous occasion. His boisterous laugh caught the attention of everyone else on the beach, leading them to gather closer to the base. In total, there were 17 Autobots, an equal number of humans, 8 Minicons and even the 7 Omnicons were all present as well. And Steve was there as well. PSH, about freakin' time. The disgruntled Viacon grumbled, having kept to himself while waiting. One of his Omnicon brethren came over and gave him a hearty smack on the shoulder, which he didn't enjoy. Come on, Steve. Kyle said, trying to pep the loner up. This is supposed to be a good day. Exactly. Kevin joined in as the other Omnicons bunched up around him. We could be on the cusp of finding the Ark. Our old oppressors are gonna finally get what's coming to him. HMPH, maybe. Steve said, unable to let go of his cynical view. Once everyone was gathered, Jazz and Jetfire stood on either side of Optimus Prime, making a head count before giving their leader the okay. Everybody's here. Jazz gave a thumbs up. We're good to go, Prime. Excellent. Optimus nodded, taking a deep intake of air. Then this is it. Autobots. He began his speech, raising his arms out toward the antsy crowd. It is a great honor that all of you could join us for such an important day. After the trials and tribulations that all of us have gone through, he scanned his optics across his entire team. From growing closer as comrades, then to Jetfire, Grimlock, Springer, Flare-Up and Seaspray. To reuniting with friends long thought lost, the Prime nodded toward Eraser, Signal Flare and All Might. To forging bonds with new allies, finally, he shifted his gaze down toward their 1A and 1B allies, who all smiled back. And watching our young friends grow as future heroes, the past several months on this planet have all led to this. He moved around and pointed up toward the antenna. With the components that we've salvaged from Seaspray's stasis pod, we have successfully constructed this antenna, which will send out a signal specific to the Ark, its escape craft, and its other pods. With any luck, the beacon will be able to detect where they lie on this planet, and perhaps even activate the remaining pods in the process. Optimus nodded out toward the others in gratitude. And I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for your assistance getting here. You all had a part to play in getting here. This is your victory. The entire crowd erupted into an uproarious cheer, though some were more reserved than others. Shoto simply smiled in approval while Steve folded his arms and shrugged. However, the overall vibe was one immense excitement. I can hardly wait any longer. Jiro shouted. Yeah, come on. Denki supported as well. Let's light this baby up. No need to rush them, boys. Momo asserted. After all, I'm sure that there must be a procedure to this. Actually, not really. Mei clarified, reaching behind her to reveal a remote control that only had a single, big button at its center. It's literally just this. Once this baby gets pressed, we send out the signal. The teens all stared at the remote with astonished stares, as if unable to comprehend it. Wait, that's seriously it? Tetsu scratched his head. Not to sound insulting or nothing, but I was expecting something a bit more impressive, I guess. Abara was in agreement with her metal-quirked friend. Indeed, I was also anticipating something grandiose. Some switch flipping or lever pulling at least. Like what you'd see in the movies. Listen, we're kinda working on a time frame here. Mei said with a blunt deadpan. As much as I'd love to make this a whole production, I gotta be out to Island in a week for my presentation. I ain't about to rig all that up. If anything, the teens were more taken aback by that news than the remote. WHAAAAAT. Tenya and the others shouted before the blue-haired boy went on. Hatsume, when did this happen? Yeah, you didn't tell us anything about you going out to Island. Kyoka exclaimed. However, some of the bots were left confused. What is Island? Eraser inquired. Never heard of it. Grimlock shrugged. Thankfully, Kata had them covered. It's only the most technologically advanced island on the face of planet Earth. Entirely man-made, featuring some of the most cutting-edge stuff you can imagine, by Earth standards, of course. She glanced over to Mei, who was fidgeting in place at this point. It's also where some of the best support gear is made, and I've got a feeling that you're psyched to go, right Mei? Mei's eyes shined brighter than ever as she expressed just how psyched she was. You know it, Katie Wadey. And you know what's even more mind-blowing? She raised a finger and gave the group a wink. Hee hee. Tracker came through for me. This presentation is to none other than the leading mind in support tech himself, Professor Isaac Sumdak. A collective, ooh, rang through the crowd, while a certain greenette began to fanboy out. No way. Professor Sumdak is a genius in the field of support tech. I heard he's personally taught other famous support technicians like David Shield, too. He didn't see it, but the mention of that name made All Might jump a little, the hero's smile widening ever so slightly. And you're going to present your babies to him. Hatsume, best of luck. The rest of the group offered their own show of confidence in the pink-haired inventor as well, making her blush. Ah, guys, thanks. I mean it. She looked out to all of her friends with a sheepish smile. Before all of this, I used to just keep to myself and my babies. Never really thought much about mingling with others. But now, I kinda get it. Having friends is actually really nice. Ah, Mei, Ochako cooed. Now you're making me blush. Itsuka eyed her neighbor with a slight smirk. Honestly, that's not hard. You're pretty much always blushing, Chaco. The brunette sent the redhead a narrow-eyed glance, pursing her lips irritably. Hey, just 'cause my cheeks are pinker than most doesn't mean it's a constant blush. Well, in any case, why don't we fire that thing up, Setsuna suggested, rubbing her hands together eagerly. Right. Mei lifted the remote up toward the antenna, calling out, bots. Are you ready? After receiving a unanimous, yes. From the Autobots, she took that as her go-ahead. Then let's find that ship. Click. Nothing. Mei's eyes shot up to the antenna in complete bafflement after seeing nothing happen. She tried pressing the button again multiple times but still nothing happened. Red. Did some wires get crossed or are we just not plugged the thing in? I'm fairly sure that everything's set up properly. Red Alert assured, though he was equally just as confused. But this doesn't make sense. Is there supposed to be something happening? Sideswipe asked. Aren't signals something you usually can't see? At this point, May was pressing the button as rapidly as she could, her frustration growing by the second. Yeah, but the antenna's not receiving anything. It's supposed to be glowing from all the energon we're using to power it, but bzzzzzt*, gah. Recoiling in shock, May dropped the remote as it zapped in her hand, blowing to pieces as it hit the ground. *VVVVVWOOOOVWOOOOOVWOOOOOVWOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO their attention back toward the antenna. Eyes and optics widened as the giant metal construct began to glow bright blue, no doubt building up with a lot of energy all at once. It's not supposed to be doing that then, I guess. Sunstreaker deduced. Hit the freaking dirt, Kyoka screamed, diving to the ground while keeping her head covered. Jazz immediately shielded her with his own body, which was followed by several humans, Autobots, Minicons and Omnicons doing the same thing. Then, once the entire area was practically coated in intense blue light. *KRA Chum. The entire thing blew up, rocketing the antenna upward as a wave of energy blasted out across the entire area. The kids screamed in terror while the Autobots held steadfast, keeping them covered as they felt their bodies get a sudden surge of power from the energon cascade. A few moments later, crash, they heard the antenna smash back down. The bots made sure to wait for a few seconds more, though, not wanting to risk anything. Red alert, I need a reading. Optimus ordered. Without moving away from May, the medic raised one of his arms, a small radar dish shifting out from his forearm. Once about 10 seconds, he got the reading and reported, energon radiation levels at 0.9%. We're in the clear. Hearing that, the Autobots stood up, but still kept the humans close at hand. Or rather, in hand, as they all held them at their sides. The only exception was All Might, whose smile had disappeared after the incident. What in the world was that? The number one hero questioned. Did something overload up there? I don't know, May uttered dejectedly, staring down upon the burning, twisted remains of their antenna on the beach. But now, it's ruined. Nobody get too close to it. Red alert advised, trying to hide the fact that he was also disappointed it had failed as well. He pointed his radar dish at it, taking its radiation levels. 49.6% energon irradiated. All humans are advised to stay at least 20 feet away from it. Sue looked up to her large guardian robot. Ribbit, Seaspray, you'd better go put that fire out. I'll be fine. Seaspray nodded down to her. Right. Just stay right here. The large Autobot set her down and went toward the beach, splashing down into the water to cause a massive wave that smothered the fire in an instant. I don't understand, though, Signal Flare shook his head, trying to make sense of it. I thought we did everything correctly. So did I, Red Alert sighed, his head hanging low. But it's just as I feared. The earthen components we used to fill in the gaps weren't suitable enough for the task. That's the only explanation I can conclude from this catastrophic failure. May was on her hands and knees in Red Alert's hand, feeling absolutely disappointed in herself. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to work. It was supposed to help you guys find the rest of your friends. Her hands clenched at her hair, her anger, frustration and sadness boiling over in a matter of seconds. Why? Of all the babies that had to blow up in my face, couldn't this one have just worked on the first try? Gah. Hatsume, Izuku muttered, feeling sad for his friend as she cried her soul out. Before long, the Autobots had gathered around Red Alert and set their humans down, hoping to comfort May. I know how you must be feeling, doing all of that hard work only for it to amount to nothing. I've been there before. He's right, May. Ochako supported, sitting down next to her friend to offer a shoulder to cry on. It sucks, but it's not like you can't try again, right? May sniffled, trying to regain some of her composure to answer. SNF, no, but, there was a lot riding on this. She thrust her arm out toward the wreckage of their antenna. And that was the only way we could hope to get a signal out. Now what can we use? Well, maybe Sector 7 has the parts you need. RC suggested, looking toward Red Alert and Signal Flare. I mean, they've gotta have something, right? Those components we had were from Sector 7. Red Alert sighed, rubbing his helm to try and make sense of it all. Unfortunately, it seems what they gave us weren't as up to snuff as they thought they were. Then maybe they have something different. Windblade reasoned. We can't stop trying now that we're so close, Red. Don't you think I know that? The medic snapped, taking the city speaker aback. What do you think we've been trying to work with since we arrived on this planet, Windblade? Of course, Sector 7 has good tech, but very little of it is compatible with Cybertronian technology. He pointed straight toward the base. The ground bridge in there is barely able to function, and even then, nothing's been the same since the scraplets got to it. Don't you all see? We're starting to run out of options. Optimus stepped in and placed a hand on the raving bot's shoulder. Red, that's enough. Red Alert snapped his head around, meeting Prime's gaze. I understand that you are frustrated. Many of us are. But that is no reason to lash out at your teammates like that. Optimus directed his attention down toward the humans. After all, you are not the only one suffering because of this. His expression softening, Red Alert shifted his sights down to see May, her eyes full of tears as she stared back at her partner. SNF, R Red, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, May. Red sighed and knelt down, bowing his head to her. I allowed my emotions to overwhelm me, and I apologize. This is not your fault. The pink-haired girl wiped her nose and pulled her legs up to hug them close to her chest. SNF, I dunno, it really feels like it. It isn't, Hatsume. Tenya assured. To be honest, I doubt that the outcome would have changed if you had done anything different. Shoto gave a curt nod at that. Yeah, and besides, things could have gone a whole lot worse. Beep 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 beep. Just then, an alarm began going off inside the base, catching everyone's attention. Ack, someone's trying to make contact. Flare-Up rolled her optics, raising a finger toward everyone else. Hold on a minute, loves, I'll pick it up. CHYOOM** in an instant, the Autobot scout had blinked into the base to answer the call, but within moments, a different voice came echoing through, and it so loud that everyone heard it even from outside. Pre-me. Just from that yell alone, it was unmistakable who that was. And Flare-Up blinking back outside only affirmed that. Ah, hey, it's Agent Fowler. He wants to see. Ha, I am aware, Flare-Up. Prime sighed. I'll be right there. Don't worry, everyone. This, hopefully will not take long. Optimus began making his way back into the base, with Red Alert, Bulkhead, Jazz and Flare-Up following close behind. The other Autobots and the humans chose to remain outside, though they were all curious as to what was going on. ZRKT, what you think's got? ZRKT, his pants in a bunch. Bumblebee asked. No clue. Izuku shrugged, only to see Mina and Sestuna following the bots close behind. But it seems like they're gonna find out. So, what's stopping us from doing the same thing? Kyoka asked. There was a moment of ponderous silence among the students before they all came to the same conclusion, follow the two troublemaking girls. But the moment they all went inside, they were once again greeted by Fowler's angry yelling. Prime, what in blazes are your people doing out here? The Sector 7 agent was fuming on the holoscreen, the sky whizzing by behind him. And judging by how fast he was going, he must have been in an aircraft of some sort. We had an agreement. Complete secrecy and no collateral damage. Optimus, however, was simply confused. I am sorry, Agent Fowler, but all Autobots are present and accounted for. He moved aside to show Bulkhead and the others behind him, to which he then switched on the external camera, showing the remaining bots outside. Then explain why I'm receiving reports of 4 jungle-sized bots mixing it up 20 miles outside Omaha. Fowler countered. Wait, Nebraska. Having accompanied his students, All Might was quick to respond to his old friend. Bill, are you sure these aren't Decepticons? They are based in North America, after all, so they would be closer. And it sounds like there's been a lot of infighting lately. Flare-Up pointed out with a cheeky grin. Starscream can't keep his ranks in line. Fowler managed to rein in his frustration for the moment, stating, well, I'm just arriving on the scene. The camera visual on his end switched, showing a crashed spacecraft next to a lone road going across an arid field with a small gas station not too far away. Have a look. What everyone saw managed to take them all aback. It was a practical shootout between two sides, with 3 bots hanging out behind the crashed ship. However, between the hail of bullets being rained down upon them and the smoke from the ship, no one could make them out all that clearly. "I dunno," Jazz said. "Can't see much of those cats. What about the guy shooting at 'em?" The camera shifted toward the other side of the battleground, where they saw a much more intact spacecraft, one that was sterling silver and had large engines on either side with 3 wings attached to each near the rear. And, standing on top of it, was a single, large bot who towered over the others, and was built like a walking arsenal. He was mainly brown and orange with deep green accents, with the brown being relegated to the heavier armored parts of his body such as his shoulders, forearms, knees and lower legs. His chest, back and upper legs were orange while his hands, feet and waist were green, along with the missile racks that he wore on his hips. His helm, meanwhile, was a mixture of all 3 colors, being mainly brown with orange details on the side antenna and a bright green visor. However, much like Grimlock, the bot had no exposed facial features, instead sporting a respirator-like mask like sea spray. Though rather than resembling a scuba mask, this bot had vents where his mouth should have been. He was also armed to the teeth, carrying a green assault rifle and having a large cannon mounted on his right shoulder. The humans couldn't tell what he transformed into, but he did have huge tires mounted on his back and in his shins. All at once, the Autobots felt their jaws drop at the sight of the new arrival, with bulkheads falling open the most. "By the Allspark," Red Alert uttered. "It is one of ours." "Bulkhead," Mina shouted out, seeing how shocked her partner was. "You recognize this guy?" "Ha ha ha. Oh, do I ever." Bulkhead laughed while pumping a victorious fist. "It's only Frag and Roadbuster. I know that gun-totin', crankcase anywhere." Just then, Springer and Seaspray's voices rang in from outside. "Say what?" The triple changer came sprinting in while the larger Autobot's footsteps rattled the entire building before he leaned down to peer through the window. And when they saw their comrade on screen, they were all too eager to express their elation. "Ha! It is Rhodey," Springer beamed. "It's a big ol' wrecker reunion on planet Earth." "Ha ha. No kidding," Seaspray said before turning back toward the other bots outside. "Hey, everyone, Roadbuster's back." However, Agent Fowler's face reappeared on the screen, and he was far from being as happy as they were. "I don't care if Abraham Lincoln's back. We have to contain this situation before we all wind up on the 11 o'clock news." Omaha, 10:30 p.m. To say that Roadbuster hadn't been expecting something like this was an understatement. He knew exactly what he was getting into the moment he decided to try tailing the Decepticon warship, and he didn't regret that decision. After all, it would go against the wrecker symbol he wore on his shoulder if he didn't do something risky like that. To be a wrecker meant he was willing to put their spark on the line no matter how dangerous the task at hand was, and while he was sure his time would come one day, he sure as hell would make sure to go out on his terms. And his terms were, "Come in, get some, ya lil' bitch. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. Heavy ordnance. Extremely heavy ordnance." He never even let the cons who were tailing him in that dinky little scout ship even get a blast in edgewise once they crash-landed. A landing that he was also responsible for after outmaneuvering them upon entering the planet's atmosphere. Of course, he was still outnumbered, but so long as he had ammo to spare, he might as well have been a one-bot army. Though of course, he knew he had to be careful, too, because while he wasn't 100% certain, there was a structure just a few yards away that looked like a fueling station. One stray bullet and, well, the results would speak for themselves. Eventually, his assault rifle ran out and he was forced to stop and reload. Though that didn't stop the large wrecker from taunting the cons. "Come on, just how yellow-bellied are ya? I take down little bird and now you've got tails between legs. Grow some bearings. Grr, you suck," came a high, nasally voice from behind the crashed ship. "Yeah, this ain't fair at all." A different voice agreed, this one much deeper and croakier. Roadbuster simply scoffed at that. PSH, who said anything about fair? Choom. Huh. His attention was suddenly diverted out toward the expansive field away from the road, where a bright blue light suddenly flashed out. If Roadbuster had proper optics, they likely would have widened at the sight of a ground bridge opening up about 20 feet away, and within moments, 5 Autobots came sprinting through. All of them were ones he recognized, too. Jazz and Flare-Up were welcome sights, though the ones he was the most excited to see were his fellow wreckers, Bulkhead and Springer. And of course, leading the pack was the boss bot himself, which really got Roadbuster riled up. Oh yeah, hell yeah, it's true. He's alive. Reaching down to his side, he opened a panel in his hip, retrieving a small, automatic handgun that he shot into the air in celebration. Optimus is here. His announcement made the three Decepticons do a double take. What? The third con exclaimed, peeking his head out slightly from behind the wreckage. His voice was very raspy, and from the sound of it, he had a slight lisp as well. And when his optics saw Optimus and the Autobots, he deadpanned immediately. Oh, you've gotta be fragging kidding me. But then, an idea struck him. Wait, this could be our opportunity. Let's go, boys. The Autobots meanwhile, were trying to calm their compatriot down. Whoa, Rhodey. Bulkhead urged, reaching out to his friend. Reel it in. We're way too close to human settlements to do that. Haha. Bulky. Roadbuster laughed, seemingly not hearing his friend over the sound of his own gunshots. He hopped down from the top of his ship to greet the bots. And Springs. Good to see you guys. It's been too long. Glad to see ya, too, Rhodey. Springer agreed, only to shift his focus out toward the ship. But we can't waste time here. We gotta get you and these cons out of sight before any prying eyes show up. That only served to confuse the wrecker. Huh, what are ya talking about? He tilted his head toward Optimus, hoping to get some answers. Prime, what's going on? We will explain later, Roadbuster, the Prime stated. But for now, we need to. Pow pow pow. Cha boom. The bots were all taken off guard when three huge laser beams came blasting in from across the way, knocking practically all of them off their feet after intersecting to create a potent explosion. Dust and debris were kicked up, obscuring the bots' vision as a trio of cackles were heard approaching. And what's more, it was clear that they were surrounded, with one voice coming from the front while the others closed in on either side. Haha. Thanks for giving us some time to get our scrap together, Prime. A pair of shining red optics gleamed through the cloud of dust, signaling the arrival of a giant skunk. His fur was a deep shade of purple and he had a silver stripe going down his back, though as it went further down, it was intercut with pieces of exposed, yellow armor. The same armor could be seen on the skunk's upper forelegs, and his tail was long and had serrated blades doing up to the tip. He smirked and spoke in his raspy voice, really appreciate it. Hoo-hoo, yeah. Another voice croaked in, and through the dust jumped a huge red toad with big green eyes. He had orange and blue patterns on its back, along with a purple stripe going down either side of his body. His biceps, thighs and lower jaw were made of black metal as opposed to the rough skin, though. Gotta love it when Autobots are too stupid to think. Finally, the third bot came soaring in, blowing away the dust completely thanks to the VTOL fans in his membrane-like glider wings. He was a giant, light blue flying squirrel with silver armor going down its back, as well as gold accents edging his wings. He also had a bit of that same armor across its forehead, too. His forelegs were a light gray while its hindlegs were completely robotic, and like his skunk companion, his tail was also bladed. Hee, now this is gonna be a lot more fun. The Autobots raised their weapons, standing in a circle to cover all sides. Aw, man, we got more Preds. Jazz bemoaned. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Flare-Up said with an annoyed grimace. Not you three. Flare, you know these three? Bulkhead asked. Unfortunately. The skunk Predacon snarled in the scout's direction for her remark. Grr, oh, it's you. Of all Autobots, of course we'd have to run into you on this planet. He stretched his body out and widened his stance, as if ready to pounce. Well, you're not getting away from us again. Boys, time to take our revenge. Gas skunk, terrorize. With a loud growl, the con transformed into his robot mode, with his beast head folding down before it and the back of the skunk folded around onto the robot mode back, revealing the robot's chest. It consisted of the same yellow armor with some visible green and red circuitry underneath. The skunk's forelegs extended to become the robot mode legs while the hind feet folded up so that the robot mode arms could shift out of the thighs. Finally, Gas Skunk's head shifted out from what used to be the skunk's rear end, with the tail attached to the back like a huge ponytail. His head was mostly dark purple and he wore a red mask that pointed upward at either side, his green optics gleaming with anticipation. Right behind ya. The blue flying squirrel agreed. Dark Scream, terrorize. Letting out a shrill screech, Dark Scream's beast mode head folded in so that his robot mode head could shift out, before his entire back, wings and all, flipped around to settle onto his robot mode back. The hind legs shifted down and extended to form the robot mode legs as his chest was revealed, sporting a large, purple crystal in its center. His head, meanwhile, was a deep magenta color, with a helm that had 2 crests on either side. His yellow optics were full of excitement as he flashed a sharp-toothed smile. Hee hee hee. Hoo hoo, we're gonna make you guys croak. The toad rattled around before bouncing into the air. Slapper, terrorize. With a deep ribbit, the toad's head and back shifted out from the main body, forming the shoulder pads for the robot mode while the rest of the beast shifted around. Its rear legs and hindquarters formed the arms and chest respectively, while the front legs formed the robot mode legs. The toad's lower jaw flipped into the robot mode's back as Slapper's head popped out, his helmet very rounded and somewhat toad-like with a single green orb on one side resembling an eye. However, his actual optics were, oddly enough, blue. Now that all 3 were in robot mode, they kept their circular formation around the 6 Autobots, their stances wide as they snickered nefariously. However, none of the bots were particularly fazed by their situation. Hey, so now ya get some bearings. Roadbuster said before cocking his rifle. *CHKCHKT*, but news flash, bolt brains, are still outgunned and outnumbered. So, what's our next move? This. In a move that took everyone off guard, Gas Skunk spun around and raised the tail on the back of his head. And Flare Up wasn't quick enough to stop him. No, don't let him. *PPPBBBRRRTTT. All at once, an immense cloud of green, noxious gas was unleashed from the back of Gas Skunk's head, making all of the bots stagger as it entered their systems. With their vents clogged, they entered a massive coughing fit to try and expel the toxic fumes, though that proved difficult since there was just so much. Hawk hawk. What the scrap. Jazz belted out. Hawk hawk. By Primus. Bulkhead nearly fell to his knees, the stench was so bad. What is this stuff? D don't know, Hawk. Springer gagged, sending a pointed glare toward the Predacon. This stuff laced with toxin or something. HM, not exactly. Gas Skunk chortled proudly as his 2 cohorts slid up next to him, Slapper and Dark Scream having put on gas masks to shield themselves from the fumes. Just a little toxic concoction that my body makes naturally. And it'll allow us to do this. The skunk Predacon switched placed with Dark Scream so that he was on the left side, and he twisted his body so that his left shoulder was pointed directly at the Autobots. On said shoulder, a similar crystal to the one on Dark Scream's chest resided, and it lit up before letting loose a powerful heat beam. Left laser. *KRA boom. Not only did the fiery laser make contact, it also caused the gas around the bots to explode, sending them flying away all at once. The 6 of them landed in a heap on the desert floor, all while the trio of Predacons cackled. Ahahaha. Looks like you guys should chill. Dark Scream announced as his own crystal glowed. Center laser. Chink 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 chink. This time, just as his wording implied, the flying squirrel Predacon's attack created a massive wave of ice that froze all of the Autobots in place across the ground, much to the evildoers' delight. Hoo. Nice work, guys. Slapper clapped his webbed hands before shifting his own position, the toad head on his right shoulder shifting up to reveal his own crystal under the jaw. Now let's shock their systems. Right laser. *ZZZZZAAAPPPP. From his shoulder, a surge of purple lightning shot straight for the Autobots, which was when Prime made his move. He brought out his Energon axe and cut himself right out of the ice, leaping in to intercept the blast. Spinning his axe at rapid speed, he absorbed the elemental attack into it, causing the weapon to surge with electricity before he threw it right back at the Predacons. The trio screamed in unison as it erupted at their feet, shocking all 3 of them. Ha. Nice shot, boss. Roadbuster commended, breaking out of the ice no problem along with Bulkhead and Springer. While the latter 2 worked on freeing Flare Up and Jazz, Roadbuster leveled his shoulder cannon and shot a massive missile at the 3 cons, throwing them into a panic. Oh man, this is getting bad. Darkscream hollered. Slapper was bouncing from foot to foot in a rather comical fashion, his hands flying to his head. What are we gonna do, gasped Skunk. The only one to keep his composure, the Skunk Predacon's glare deepened as he balled a fist. What we always do. Give 'em all ya got, boys. He threw his shoulder out and unleashed his heat beam again. Left laser. Center laser. Darkscream followed through with his freeze beam. Our right laser. Slapper joined in as well, his lightning beam uniting with the heat and cold to keep the conflicting energies stable. And then. *BOOOOOOM. Their attacks collided with Roadbuster's missile, causing a huge explosion that sent smoke and fire billowing up into the sky. High above, Agent Fowler had been observing the fight from a safe distance in his helicopter, but now he had to take evasive maneuvers to make sure he didn't get caught in the blast. Gah! By Teddy Roosevelt's mustache, if this is what exposes these bots to the world, I won't feel a hint of sympathy for him. The agent bellowed out in anger. Back down below, Flare Up and Jazz had been freed, and the former had just about reached her limit. Gah! It always ends up this way. She complained before zipping through the smoke, causing a large hole to get blown through it. On the other side, the Predacons were taken aback when they saw the familiar flash of blue come streaking toward them, knowing what was about to happen next. Oh crew, clang asterisk, ow. Gas Skunk was promptly kicked in the face, sending him sprawling to the desert ground. Flare Up followed that by immediately shooting down Darkscream and Slapper at near point-blank range, the two toppling over from shock. Ha, I have had it up to here with you three. Flare Up sneered, narrowing her optics at them. This makes what, the 50th time we've ran into each other. Hee, I think you're exaggerating there. Gas Skunk chuckled, only to find her foot place firmly on his midsection, causing him to spit up energon as she pointed her pistols at his face. Hey, easy on the fur. But Flare Up didn't seem to have any sympathy to give. Gimme one good reason why I shouldn't put the three of you out of commission right now. The other Autobots were left stunned by such a threat, especially coming from her. Whoa, Flare, pump the brakes a bit. Jazz insisted, rushing up to try and calm the situation. Back it up, what did these cons do to ya that's got ya all riled up? Flare Up rounded on Jazz and snapped, they're the reason why I was late to the Sea of Rust mission. Her scream reverberated through the whole area, stunning the Autobots into silence. They're the ones who stopped me from getting there in time. They're the reason why. As she went on, her expression shifted from anger to pained sadness, her shoulders pumping up and down as her venting grew heavy and haggard. They're the reason why, I couldn't save him. If I'd gotten there in time, she lifted her head, allowing everyone to see the sadness in her optics. Then Hot Rod wouldn't have died. The rest of the Autobots were left in stunned silence. Even Springer and Roadbuster were astonished by what they had just heard. However, Gas Skunk's confident chuckle broke through the brief pause, leading everyone to look down at him. Ahahaha. That's right. Shockwave gave us direct orders to intercept the speedster before she could get to the Sea of Rust. He was hoping to take out some Autobots who'd foolishly come searching for the Lightning Strike Coalition force, and while most of them got away, I'm pretty sure the one he killed managed to shake your resolve pretty badly. Ahahaha, RK. Shut it. Flare Up screamed. Flare, you shoulda told me about this from the start. Springer insisted, breaking out his swords to stab them down on either side of Slapper's head. I woulda joined in. The Toad Predacon began immediately begging for his life. Wait, we can talk about this. Nothing to talk about, bub. Hot Rod was a friend of mine. Bulkhead promptly pointed his arm cannon at Darkscream as well. A friend to all of us. Do you have any idea what you cost us? Darkscream raised his hands, trying to save face. Wait, it's not like we wanted to get your friend killed. We were just following orders. Then why were ya snickering about it earlier? Roadbuster questioned, ready to put a bullet in each of their heads. Give the order, Prime, I'm ready to. Enough. Optimus bellowed, stopping everything before it could escalate further. This will not be turned into an execution. He approached Flare Up, placing a hand on her shoulder. Flare Up, I understand your misgivings with these Predacons, but we cannot allow our emotions to dictate our actions. We have them incapacitated, so now we should bring them in for questioning. Flare-Up hated to admit it, but the Prime had a point. As angry as she was for what happened, she didn't want to lose her cool. After all, these cons could give us some useful info, she thought to herself. Ultimately, she took in a deep breath and sighed, pulling her pistols back into her arms. "You're right, Prime, sorry." She glowered down at Gas Skunk and reached down, forcing his hands behind his back before hauling him up. "Let's get you creeps locked up." As Bulkhead and Springer began to do the same to Slapper and Darkscream, the Predacons all snickered, much to their confusion. "What, you think this is funny?" Bulkhead growled. "Hee hee, kind of, yes." Gas Skunk affirmed, his optics shifting upward. "'Cause you bots have no idea what's coming." And, right after he said that, *Chium, ka bam. The Autobots were taken off their feet once again as a pair of missiles came screaming in from above, slamming into the dirt and causing a large shockwave that sent everyone flying. As the three Predacons did, though, they all managed to transform into their beast modes, landing without a scratch. Right after that, the bots were greeted by the one who shot at them, swimming down through the air with a baneful roar, and a haiku. "Behold, Autobots, your imminent doom is here. Tremble before me." "Gah, Skybite," Optimus hollered, bringing out his axe again. He threw it at the flying Sharkticon several times, but each projectile missed as he simply swam through the air. "Ha ha, there he is." Darkscream cheered. "We knew y'd be here, boss." Slapper pumped his fists up and down. "Show him what you've go, ah." However, Skybite didn't seem all too happy, snapping his jaws at the three as he flew down to their location. "You imbeciles. Of course, you had to be the ones to wind up out here. You're lucky that I even chose to come here and rescue your sorry AFTS." He slid his body up next to them, instructing, "Now get on. We have work to do." Gas Skunk was all too happy to do so, especially as the Autobots started firing at them again. "Gia, why you've got it, boss. Come on, guys." Once all three had jumped onto the much larger beast's back, they sailed straight into the air. "No." Flare-Up screamed vengefully, blinking after the Preds even as Optimus warned her not to. She had managed to just barely make it to Skybite's tail fin and reached out to grab it, only for one of the torpedo mini-cons to strike her directly in the side, sending her plummeting back toward the ground. "Gah. Excellent, Sandsting," Skybite commended before the purple torpedo reattached to his body. "And Dragonus. Just to make sure the Autobots don't come after us," his optics shifted toward Fowler's helicopter. "A distraction, if you would." The green torpedo mini-con was happy to oblige, darting around in midair on a collision course with Fowler's chopper. The Sector 7 agent gasped and immediately took evasive action, but Dragonus was able to shift just enough that he managed to blow off the whirlybird's tailfin. "Gah." Fowler lurched over the controls as the helicopter careened down, spinning uncontrollably through the air. Flare-Up, however, wouldn't stand for it. "No, no, no, no." Blink in a flash, she sped up and reached the falling copter, latching onto the side of its cockpit and quickly prying off the canopy to pull Fowler out. Was it the safest thing to do? Probably not, but she wasn't about to lose another life thanks to those three. Blink the very second she got Fowler, she rushed back down to the ground, where he nearly threw up in her hand. Every time. The man grimaced, only to then see his chopper come crashing down, into the gas station, resulting in a blast that sent the entire thing sky high. Of course. The Autobots rejoined their compatriot just as the Predacons circled back around, all of them laughing hysterically. "Ahahaha. So long, Auto bums." Darkscream taunted. "Hope you enjoyed this little preview, because it's gonna get a whole lot worse for ya." Ahaha. With that final word from Gas Skunk, they rocketed away on Skybite's back, his propulsion hastened by his mini-cons. Needless to say, that left the crew feeling quite concerned. What did he mean by that?" Jazz questioned. Optimus shook his head in uncertainty. "I do not know, Jazz, but I don't like it." "Ya shouldn't," Roadbuster asserted, his visor meeting Prime's optics. "Sorry that this planetary touchdown didn't exactly go smoothly, Prime, but we've got even worse problems that'll be on our hands soon enough." "Worse," Fowler shouted, managing to compose himself enough to start reprimanding the large bot. "Your little re-entry just caused a lot of damage, soldier." Whatever it is you're talking about, it had better be worth that gas station getting blown to smithereens. The wrecker's attention shifted down to Fowler, and he leaned in further to get his point across. Little, organic creature, you have no idea what's about to happen here. You thought what happened here was bad. You ain't seen nothing yet. Rhodey, Bulkhead said warily. What you mean? The whole reason this happened was because I was tailing a Decepticon warship headed here. Roadbuster revealed, leading his fellow Autobots to audibly gasp. He once again diverted his attention to Optimus. Unfortunately, they caught wind of me right as we passed by the red planet just past the asteroid belt. Prime, we got some of Megatron's top guys coming here. And, I've got a feelin' they ain't comin' to negotiate a surrender. With this new information presented to him, Optimus Prime lowered his head, contemplating what would come next. Eventually, he reached up and activated his comlink. Red alert, open the ground bridge and tell everyone to gather outside. We have dire news. And this is the end of part 46 of S02 This What If. Hope you guys like to know if you're leaving comment down below and subscribe to the channel.